My name is Sarah Whipple. I use she, her pronouns. I work for a needle exchange in California. And I was saying that, harm reduction is a really important part of my life. It's something that saved my life. And so started using social media, not because I like knew how to do it, but because I just had something that I wanted to share with people. And I learned how to do it because of that. So I hope that's encouraging to you all. Even if you don't have social media experience, if you have that kind of passion and message, then the details you can work on that, all of that, and end up making a really quality content from that. So yeah, I run the Instagram and TikTok account at Harm Reduction Services. I have about 150,000 followers. I've raised about 70,000 US dollars for the organization that I work for. Um, and the content that I make has been featured in the New York Times, the United Nations Foundation, and on Instagram's official account. So, again, that's starting from no social media experience whatsoever and just kind of troubleshooting as I go to learn how to do this. So, it is possible, and I want to share what I've learned with you all. Okay, so now to actually how to make good content, we're gonna get into like the nitty gritty of actually making videos and stuff later, but I want to start with some foundations of like what you should do to just even start thinking about making good content. And that mostly starts with setting goals and then getting familiar with the topic that you're posting about, the platforms you're posting on, and the audience you're posting to. So the first step is to set goals, and that's both for your account overall and also for individual pieces of content. You don't have to have like one single goal for your whole account. It's okay to mix up different pieces of content. But I think a mistake that I see pretty commonly is people just kind of posting pictures of things or just, oh, this is interesting, let me share it. And I would really encourage you to think about like, what am I hoping to achieve with the content that I'm posting? You can use content to raise awareness about an issue, to mobilize people to action, change public perception, support a policy or program, educate people, have fun, raise money, other goals as well. Um, but have in mind when you're creating your content, like, what am I trying to achieve with this? And so I've put some examples from the Instagram that I run. First one is a guide. Healthcare is expensive in the United States, and so we made a guide of how to take care of wounds using inexpensive materials at the dollar store. So that the purpose of that post was to educate people. And so as I'm crafting the post, I'm thinking about my goal is to educate people. How do I do that most effectively? The second post, we need help. That was during a flood in my city that affected a lot of encampments. We were doing a fundraiser. So the goal of that is to raise money or to raise supplies. The third one on the bottom left there is my county was getting a bunch of funding that it could, if it wanted to, allocate to harm reduction programs. And so I was trying to get people to take a survey and say they support harm reduction funding. So it's tell Sacramento County to prioritize harm reduction funds, take their survey. The goal there is to mobilize people to action. And then that last one, NAR can't get you off my mind. That was just, we were making Valentine's Day cards with different harm reduction messages. The purpose of that was to have fun. There's no like broader purpose, and that's okay too. You can make content that's just fun sometimes. It doesn't always have to be for a bigger purpose. Um, but just having an idea of what you want to do with each piece of content, I think is really important so that you can actually achieve those goals. Okay. All right. When you're making content, it's always important to kind of understand the topic that you're making content about. And I think that's especially important with harm reduction because we live in a time where the word harm reduction is getting used by a lot of people who aren't really harm reductionists. And so it's important to kind of stick with what harm reduction means. And so the definition that I've brought today is from the National Harm Reduction Coalition. And it is that harm reduction is a set of practical strategies and ideas at reducing negative consequences associated with drug use. Harm reduction is also a movement for social justice built in belief in and respect for the rights of people who use drugs. And that second part I think is so important. There are a lot of different harm reduction strategies that you can talk about in your content, policies you can talk about in your content, but always it should be rooted in respect for the rights of people who use drugs. And I'm going to show you example on the next slide of how that doesn't always work out. And I just want to kind of make sure everyone understands that just because a piece of content is about drugs doesn't make it about harm reduction. So we really need to make sure that we're respecting people who use drugs and their rights and their autonomy. So this is an example from my city. My county got 200,000 US dollars to do a fentanyl awareness campaign. Fentanyl is a opioid that has been causing a lot of overdoses in the United States. I'm not sure if it's in yours areas as well. And they what they decided to do with all of that money was to put up these bus stop ads that tell everyone that if they take a pill, it's going to kill them. And we have this deadly fentanyl epidemic in our community. Don't take pills that that are not from the pharmacy. And I actually talked to the people who designed this bus stop, and they thought that was a harm reduction message. And I think it's and so what my team did is we printed out these posters on the right here, which is that Narcan reverses fentanyl overdoses and that you can get it for free, and here's where you get it. And so I think that's kind of important because to show the difference, because both of these are supposed to reduce overdose deaths, right? And one of them is telling you just like, don't do drugs. Drugs are going to kill you, just trying to scare people. And the other one is, okay, here's some education about resources in your area and how you can survive an overdose. And that's what we want to do with harm reduction. Our goal is never to shame people, to scare people. We're trying to provide information in a non-judgmental way to people who might be using drugs. And then the section on the right here, there are a lot of words about drugs and about drug users that carry a lot of stigma. And we want to avoid those words in our content and also in life. So a common one in the United States is saying addicts, saying people who use drugs are like addicts. And that word has a lot of stigma associated with it. So we don't use it anymore. We say people who use drugs. And when you find yourself seeing words that are stigmatizing, there's always a way to think of a different word. So I'd really encourage you to just make sure that the words you're using in your post are, again, rooted in respect for people who use drugs. Next important part, so we know our topic, now we have to know who we're presenting to. When I first started making content, I had this idea that I was going to be talking to, I'm an encampment outreach worker. I do outreach in homeless encampments. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be making content for the people that I serve. And then realized very quickly that that population doesn't really have phones with internet access usually. And so that's not the population that I was speaking to when I made my content. And it's important, I think, to understand who you're actually speaking to. And that's both who your audience is now and who you want it to be in the future. Some people who might follow you are people who are just interested in learning more about harm reduction. They don't know anything about harm reduction or drug policy, and they want to learn more. People who have similar political beliefs, maybe work in different areas of social justice. People who work at other harm reduction organizations, people who use drugs themselves, your friends and family. So I have an activity here. If we might not have time to get through all of them, but I'm just gonna say a type of content, and then if you want to add to the chat who you think of the groups above here, who you think would be interested in that type of content. So an in-depth tutorial about the safest way to inject drugs. If you want to put in the chat, which of these groups do you think is the most interested in in-depth tutorial about the safest way to inject drugs? And while y'all are working on that, I will start kind of going through the other ones. So for instance, a video about the different services by a harm reduction program, I think that could be interesting to a lot of different people. It could be interested to people who use drugs, people interested in learning more about harm reduction, similar political beliefs, all of those groups. An infographic advocating for drug decriminalization. Typically, in my experience, those infographics are most often shared by people who have the same political beliefs, or maybe people who work at other harm reduction organizations. And then The last one, a picture of you at a conference about drug policy. I love those pictures. I love seeing those pictures. Um, but if your audience, if you're trying to like bring in people who use drugs or people who just kind of have a general interest about harm reduction, maybe I don't usually like just kind of pictures of you maybe doing outreach or you at a conference about drug policy might not be the most engaging thing for someone who's coming in from the outside. Um, so you could always kind of take that and just take a different direction with it. So instead of like having a picture of you at the conference, you can say, 5 things I learned at the drug policy conference and make it a little bit more engaging from them. And then I can't really see the chat actually, but going back to the first one, in-depth tutorial about the safest way to inject drugs. Um, that would be something that'd be interesting to people who use drugs. Maybe other people would be interested in it, but maybe not. So all this to say, um, when you're just making your content, think about like who is going to see this, what information do they already know, what information are they looking to learn, and how can I target it to that group? Okay. And this is especially important for campaigns. I know that you all work on campaigns. And when you're doing campaigns, when you're making social media, you're not going to be directing it to the government or to the UN, the city council, whoever it is who's making the policy, because it's not really likely that they're going to see that. Your audience, knowing who your audience is, like people who are mobilized about harm reduction, give them something that they can do. So I have an example here, which is instead of you could post, the city council should authorize funding for harm reduction organizations. And maybe 500 people see that and they go, yes, I agree, and they like it. But what happens out of that? When the city council is reviewing the funds, they're not going to go to Instagram and say, like, how many likes did this post get on Instagram? So instead, you could give them something, your followers, something that they can actually do. So the example is to have them call their city council member, give them the number to call them, give them the policy they're supporting, give them as much information as you possibly can to make that process as easy as possible. Give them like even you can give them a script of things that you might want them to say. Um, um, but just make it as easy and direct as possible for your specific audience, and something that they themselves can accomplish. And this is true whether you're doing campaigns for a policy or whether you're raising money, for instance. Instead of just saying like donate now, say donate at this link, this, like, give them exact instructions, because the easier you make it for people, the more likely that they'll be able to engage effectively. All right, moving on. Okay. Oops. So different types of social media platforms accept different forms of content. And I think it's just important to go over briefly. Instagram accepts a lot of different types, like you can do videos and stuff, but mainly images and infographics are what's popular in Instagram. TikTok is short form video and YouTube is for longer videos. You can post videos of up to 10 minutes on TikTok, but really the videos that get a lot of traction are typically videos that are 45 seconds or less. So keeping those videos short if you're doing them on TikTok. Facebook, text and images, and then X, Twitter, I still call it Twitter, text, images, video. And then on the right here, one of the most common mistakes that I see on TikTok is people posting videos that they filmed this way. And that when you post it, because people watch TikTok like this, right? And so now your video is only going to show up like at about this much of their screen, and it's really less engaging for them, right? If they only see like a quarter of their screen and then there's just like this big black like sheet behind it. So if you're filming a TikTok video, if you're filming a video you know is going to be used for TikTok, film it like this. If you're filming something for YouTube, film it like this, because that's how YouTube videos show up. Instagram posts, accept a variety of different sizes, but usually like square is the best. And then the stories can be all of it. The term for this is called aspect ratio. So if you see that in your social media platforms, that's what that means. It just means the size. And it's usually a ratio. So like 1 to 1 is a square. 9 by 16 is like this right here. 16 by 9 is that. But it's just something to keep in mind, like when you're making content, because it sucks when you make like a really, really good video and then you realize that it was like in the wrong orientation. Okay. Another thing that you should know about the content, the platforms that you're posting on is their community guidelines. And this is especially important when you're posting about harm reduction and drug policy. Community guidelines is just like a fancy way of saying rules, basically. It's the rules of the content that's posted on the platform. And most platforms ban drug-related content or content, and it is different. So TikTok is the strictest on that, then Instagram. Twitter is not that strict about it. Um, I mean, you can say the names of drugs, but if they think that you're endorsing drugs, if you show paraphernalia, that's something I struggle with a lot working at a needle exchange. If you show like condoms, pipes, like your content can be taken down. And so there are ways to get around this. Here are a couple of examples of just videos that I've made. The video on the left is a video about how to uh prepare a heroin shot without burning your fingers. But right, the way I framed it is making a tight cup of hot chocolate. The one on the right is a video about called boofing, rectal administration of drugs. And I demonstrated it by putting saline water inside of a peach. So just if you're gonna make content that's kind of specific into the nitty-gritty about harm reduction strategies, be very careful, do what you can to avoid saying drugs by name, avoid any impression that could get you taken down. And then one of the most important things about understanding content, especially on TikTok, is algorithms. So an algorithm basically takes a bunch of data and decides what content to put on which people's feeds. And so it uses a lot of different factors to make that decision. What accounts that person follows, what videos that they've liked and commented on in the past, what their friends like. These algorithms are very complex. The good thing about algorithms is that it can bring your content to huge audiences overnight. I remember I started a TikTok account. I had just a few hundred followers, and then I posted a video that was a tour of the syringe exchange that I worked at. And it got like 1 million views. We got tens of thousands of new followers. And that's possible on TikTok because of the algorithm. Um, the downside of algorithms is that they can also hide your content, and that's especially true for drug-related content that they don't really want to be on the site. So that's called shadow banning, and it's when an algorithm basically prevents people from seeing your content. So they don't take it down. Maybe you didn't break the rules, so they can't really take it down, but they can prevent anyone from seeing it. Um, so that's something to watch out for if your views are if you've noticed that your content isn't really being viewed. That could be one possible reason, is because they've decided that your content is too similar to things that violate the community guidelines, and they're not going to show it to people. I wanted to just get a shout out. I'll be shouting out a couple different websites you can use to help with your content. One of them is Linktree. This is a really common one, because there's a lot of links that you might want to share with people, and Instagram and TikTok don't allow you to put links in your content, like in the picture and the caption. So you'll have to, if you want people to click a link, like a donation link, petition link, etc., you're going to have to get them to your bio, which is on your profile, and you're going to have to put one link that they can now get to all of the links. So this is, for instance, the link tree that I have, right? It has, you can sign up for the mailing list, you can donate to our wish list. That is a petition that I was getting people to sign. That's a history project we were doing. So all of those links are links I want to share with people. And so I put them all into one single link on a link tree. And then that is what's in my bio. So I can tell people, go to the link in my bio. That's a common thing you'll hear on social media. Go to the link in my bio, and they'll click on it and they'll have the option of what to click on. Um, Now we get to talk about comments. Might be the worst part of social media. There's a lot of great comments, a lot of people really engaging in content. There's also a lot of terrible comments on social media, especially if you're posting sort of social justice type content. This slide is just about hate comments specifically. That's something that I've dealt with the entire time I've been a social media content creator. For instance, if I post a video about Narcan, almost always at least someone comments, "You should just let them die," that type of thing. Um, there are like valid critical comments. Maybe they tell you, "Hey, your phone is really wobbly," or like the sound quality isn't good. You can keep that up. That's good, helpful criticism, even if it doesn't feel good. If someone's commenting hatred about the communities that you represent, you make your own decisions, but my recommendation is to block them, to take the comment down. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that you're not going to change their mind. I see a lot of people trying to argue with those people in the comments. Like, if they come to your comment section telling you the community that you love and represent should die, like, there is no way that you're going to bring them to a place of like understanding. Like, they're not there to understand. They're there to attack and to um be violent towards your community. So like don't like waste your time and your energy and your sense of self like fighting with them. And the second reason for that is, you want your platform to be a safe space. Like, if you're making harm reduction content and you're showing it to people who have that lived experience, and like, hey, we have these tips, we have this advocacy stuff on our, and then they open your platform and they see these comments saying that they should die, like, that's just a really terrible feeling. And I wouldn't want to visit content or engage with content that had those comments on it, right? So my recommendation is to delete and block comments like that. But if you're getting good comments on your interesting comments, questions, absolutely engage with that. I think it's great, to engage with questions and stuff in your comment section. Just not comments that are meant to undermine people. All right, getting into the nitty-gritty, how to actually make content. This could be its own like full week-long course. We're just gonna get into the basics today. Making infographics, there's different platforms. Canva is the most popular one. It's the one I use and recommend. It's very easy for people who do not have graphic design experience. So you'll see this is a screenshot of Canva. On the left, they have templates already made for you to use. And I think that's great if you don't have a graphic design background, because you don't have to start from scratch. They'll walk you through the process. So you can take a template that they have, you plan your own message and you put in your own message, and then there's a tab called Elements. And you go into that tab and you can search like syringes, you can search, HIV, whatever the topic is. And it'll show you a lot of different kind of art and clip art that you can use and put in your content as well. You can also do this to make multiple slides. And I really recommend doing that. So if you are making an Instagram post, Instagram accepts up to 10 pictures in one post. So don't try to fit everything into one post. I'll show you an example of that later. Keep it short on the text in each one. Keep it engaging, bold text, large text, because the nature of infographics is that they are shareable. And that's how you'll get a lot of new followers and new engagement. So you post something to your Instagram and people will start posting it on their stories. And they're more likely to do that if it's big, bold, short content that grabs their attention. And then people will see that in their story and follow you and share the content. And so it's not an opportunity to like really educate people and cram in every single like piece of information they could want to know. It's more about getting people engaged and getting their attention. So here's an example of exactly that. So on the left, right, big bold, there's alarms. This is when I was trying to get people to sign a petition when the county next to me was trying to shut down a syringe program. And then that on the right, so you could say, you notice on the bottom it says reader full statement. On the right, that's the full statement, but I broke it up into like 4 different things, with like pictures and stuff in it, because if you put that big wall of text in it like that, if someone's seeing that on a tiny screen in this little square, like it's so hard to read that you're like making them exert a lot of effort to engage with your content, and you want to make it as easy as possible for people to engage with your content. Um, Making TikToks. Again, could be multiple day course, but um bare bones, hold your phone like this. If you learn nothing else, hold your phone like this. Um, you can film outside of the app or inside the app. Either way, there's grandma emoji. Inside the app or outside of the app. Um, and then you can upload like the videos you've already taken. And then you're gonna go to the editor tool. Like I said, TikTok, like people's attention span is so short. I'm Gen Z. Our attention span is so, so short. And when you're on TikTok, like the algorithm is so good that you know that there are like 10,000 pieces of interesting content waiting for you. And so if you don't like grab someone's attention, like literally, I'm not even kidding, like literally in the first 5 seconds, they're going to scroll away. So kind of like sometimes I'll see people a lot of times like introducing themselves at the beginning of the video, and that's like there's nothing wrong with that. Like this is the rules of TikTok are not the same as the rules of a general conversation. But on TikTok it just doesn't do very well because if you're starting with, "Hey everyone, like my name is Sarah. I'm really passionate about harm reduction." Like they're like, "Okay, so what? I don't care about you, Sarah," right? Like you have to start with something that's like super attention grabbing, like instantly just makes them like, "Oh, I want to watch this." So I would say like don't even bother introducing yourself, like which sounds silly, but like just kind of get straight into it. And I'll show you how to do hooks later, but you just get right into the meat of it as soon as possible. So edit your clips, cut out anything that's not like super vital to your message, like keep it as short as you can and keep it going. Like if there's long periods where you're just kind of talking, like people will absolutely scroll away. And you can add music and voiceovers. Voiceovers are super helpful, I think, because you can take any sort of clips that you have of just recording around and you can add a message to it. Um, just some general tips about filming people. If you're filming yourself, try to have a script in advance or at least do multiple takes of it. Don't just kind of ramble. That doesn't do very well on TikTok. And then if you can get some good lighting, and minimal background noise. The good sound quality is definitely helpful. Filming other people, the first rule above anything else is to always have informed consent. This is a major problem in social media content creation. And we especially see it in content about people who use drugs and about people who live in homeless encampments. And there's like content creators, some of them are trying to like make fun of those people and some of them aren't. Some of them are just like, I'm trying to raise awareness, and they'll film people without their consent and put it on their like raising awareness about um people who use drugs. Here's a video of someone nodding out, and that is so incredibly unethical. If you are going to film someone, you need to let them know that you're filming them, ask their permission to film them, and tell them exactly what you're going to do with that content. So, I'm making a video about this. I, would like to get perspectives from young people who work in harm reduction. Would you mind being in this video? It's going to be posted on my TikTok account. That type of thing. I wouldn't recommend doing this during service provision. Like if you're a direct service provider, like if you're providing harm reduction supplies to someone, because you want to keep that anonymous. Um, but definitely always make sure that you have consent before filming people, taking pictures of them, and certainly before posting it. If you're filming other people, having tripods and microphones is helpful, because if you're filming like you can do this, and I did this for a long time before I had a tripod. If you're like filming someone like this, if you're just like sticking their camera in their face, it's really uncomfortable for a lot of people, and they're probably like freeze up a little bit. So having kind of the camera set up, even if you don't have a tripod, like setting it up against a book or something, like just like keeping it so that you're not like the camera isn't between your face and their face, I think is helpful and like helps them forget a camera is there and be more natural. If you're interviewing someone, write the questions in advance. Don't try to just like come up with it on the spot. Because you don't want to like go home later and be like, oh shoot, I should have thought about that or asked about that. Um, I would say also don't be afraid to direct. Like when I first started, I was so shy and was like, "Oh my, okay, like you can sit wherever you want and like say whatever you want and please like." And now I think people get nervous by that, like and sometimes a lot of times people want to be told what to do in social media, like people don't understand like so if you say, "Hey, if you wouldn't mind sitting right here for me, I think that's the best light and we can you know, do this a certain way. Well, how would you feel about talking about this specifically?" Just like kind of be have that confidence and like give them instructions. It is pretty helpful for a lot of people. And then once you have like a if you're filming someone else, once you have kind of a longer video of, you know, maybe you took 5 minutes of content with them, go back to that clip editor and edit it down and take out kind of you know, if they're rambling for a little bit or if it's not direct, if you're going to be posting it, I would recommend kind of cleaning it up a little bit and getting it into that rhythm that's used for social media, which is very fast. And it's not how people normally talk. So you will have to do a little bit of work to transfer how people normally talk into social media content. All right, some water real quick. Okay, practice. It social media can be so discouraging. There's you can spend hours on something and produce some really amazing, well thought out content and nobody sees it. And that can be like really heartbreaking and discouraging. And I just really encourage y'all to not get discouraged, to keep practicing, to practice both your skills creating content and also practice as a user of that platform. It really, really helps making content if you also use the platform yourself and you understand like what the user experience is. So this is like so if you would need like if you're just like scrolling TikTok and stuff, like now you have an excuse to do that. That's like your homework. Like you now you're like um so if you're like you know, just going through Instagram, just kind of think like, okay, I really like that post. Like, what did I like about it? Or, oh, I just scrolled away from that. Why did I scroll away? Why wasn't I interested in that? So just kind of seeing what content does well, what people like, what people respond to in comment sections is really helpful when you're going to start making your own content. Coming up with ideas. I feel like I have so many ideas, and then once I actually sit down to, like, start filming something, I'm like, "I've never heard of harm reduction in my life. What am I talking about? I have nothing to say." So what I do is I keep a list on my phone. You can if you have a notebook, you can do this too, or a laptop, whatever works for you. But just have a list, and then as soon as I think of something, if I'm just, like, at work and someone asks me a question, and I'm like, "Oh, like, that is a good question. I think people would wanna learn about that." Just, like, add it to your content list immediately, and then that way when you do sit down and start trying to like make some content, you have a list of ideas of things that are interesting, that you think you could turn into a video. You can draw inspiration from things that happen in your daily work. I know a lot of y'all were involved in a lot of really cool harm reduction and drug policy initiatives. You know, maybe something came up during a meeting that was interesting, or when you're talking to someone who's you're providing services to. Conferences, articles, studies, whatever it is, those can be great starting points. Another great starting point is questions on posts that you've already made. Because if you make a post about something and people are asking a question about it, then they want to know about um, what they're asking about. So that can be a starting point for new content as well. And then there's trends. Um, Trends can be tricky, but at least on TikTok, like sounds become trends. So there'll be like a piece of music or a piece of audio, and everyone will be using it to talk about different things. And so the bonus of trends is that it's pretty easy usually. Like there's already kind of a format of exactly what to do. The hard part about trends is that they cycle out super quickly. So if you make the video like a week later, everyone will be like, "You're so late. What are you?" So you have to be kind of quick with it, and also it can be a little corny sometimes. Like sometimes, like you know, trying to put your message into um something, and I think what I notice about like accounts that are directed towards youth but not run by youth is that they think that young people want to see trends all the time, and I always like think that no, like young people also want like substantive content and stuff, and a lot of people running the account are like, but the trends, they want the TikTok dances, right? Like, not really, actually. Like, so it's something is an option, and that can be a starting point too. But there are cons in it as well. Okay, one more section and then we'll take a break. So, um, we wanted to talk to you today about storytelling. Storytelling is just a way of like creating a narrative to share your information, and it makes sure the information that you're sharing a lot more engaging. Usually, it evokes more emotion. It keeps people watching it. Um, and there's a pretty simple formula to it that like once you learn it, it's pretty easy to implement. So I'm gonna share the formula with you and kind of an example of how to implement it. But the basic structure is hook, conflict, resolution, and then call to action. So let's explain what that means. Okay, so the hook. Um, a hook is what you use to grab your readers or watchers' attention. And that's what I was talking about earlier with that first 5 seconds. It's something that's like evokes either surprise or interest. So asking a question is a common one. Um, saying something surprising or doing something surprising. And it's just like that first thing that you say that makes them like, "Oh, I want to watch this." Um, so the example that I have, I'm gonna be talking about Narcan in the examples. And you could make a video saying naloxone is a drug that reverses opioid overdoses, and it has been proven effective in many peer-reviewed studies and stuff. And that's all true, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to make engaging content, you need to think about a way to make people care about that. And so the example I have for the hook on this is I'm going to do my social media voice. Okay. Did you know that everyday people reverse more overdoses than medical and emergency personnel? So it's like your voice changes, your voice sounds like it's excited, you're asking a question like so someone listening to that is like, "Oh, I didn't know that." Like or that doesn't sound true. Like maybe I should watch this to see what the explanation of it is. So once you have their attention, once they've decided that they're going to watch the video or read the Instagram post or whatever it is, you introduce the problem or conflict. Um, so part of storytelling is that there has to be a problem or a conflict, and if everything's great, usually people aren't that interested in it. So you need to give them a problem, and then you're going to solve the problem for them later. So starting with the problem or the conflict, tell them the significance of the issue, why they should care about it. Some of the most popular content on TikTok is just like silly thing, like how to put in a trash bag better, right? And you think like that's such like a silly like small thing, but everyone uses trash bags, so everyone's really like people watch it, right? So something that's like widely relatable, even if it's something like not everyone is going to overdose, right? But you could make overdose an issue that everyone cares about because everyone can be affected by an overdose, even if they are not overdosing themselves. And so the example of the problem here is overdose deaths reached an all-time high last year. If you don't know what you would do if you encountered an overdose, this video is for you. So kind of introducing that overdose is a major problem. You could encounter it at any time. You should know what to do. If you don't know what to do, that's a problem, and we're going to solve it for you. Resolution. So the problem that you just introduced, you got to solve it. It's not a great idea to like introduce problems into people's lives and then just leave them in that place. You don't want to just make people feel bad. So you want to give them something to feel better about it. Give them the information that they need to solve the problem. So example here, naloxone is an overdose reversal drug available at pharmacies and harm reduction programs. Using it on a person who's overdosing will allow them to breathe again and save their life. So you're explaining, hey, you know how we just said overdose is a major problem and you could encounter it any time. Now you know what you need to have to save a life if you do encounter that. The final is the call to action. So what after this, now they have the problem, it's solved for them. What are they supposed to do with this? What are they supposed to do next? And so the very last part of your video, um, should generally be an action plan for them. And this could be any variety of things. Maybe they just should learn more about the subject. So you could give them an article that they could read. Maybe you want them to attend an event, to donate money to something, to change how they view a specific topic, to advocate for a policy. Whatever it is, it's helpful if you can get kind of specific. So the example I have here, NASN is a site in the United States where you can find the nearest place to you that has Narcan. So go to nason.org to find the nearest harm reduction program to you where you can get naloxone for free. So you're giving them, like kind of like the advocacy we talked about earlier, you're giving them very specific steps that they could use to implement whatever you just introduced to them. And all of that together kind of creates a script or a story. So if you're gonna put this all together, you do your hook, then your conflict, then your resolution, then your call to action. And that is your story. And there's so many ways to do this. So I'm gonna show you an example of a video that I made. And I want to show it to you because this is actually like 50 different people's stories. This is from a city council meeting in my city where a group of people living in a homeless encampment came to the city council and were advocating for the city council not to sweep or evict them from the encampment. And it was 6 hours of footage, and I condensed it down to 2 minutes to make it for content. So I'm going to show you like where the hook is, where the conflict is, and all of that, so you can kind of see what it looks like in an actual video. Hopefully this works.
You can go home and put your slippers on. Oh, hi, babe. Can I have a glass of champagne? Sure. Can I smoke a blunt? Sure. But you discriminate, and the first thing you got to say to us is because of drugs? I'm not out here being homeless because of drugs. I'm out here because of a fucked up landlord and because of you people.
Okay. So there were 6 hours of footage here. And the reason I chose that little clip specifically as the hook, that was the hook. The reason I chose it as the hook was because she was very animated. She was very passionate. And she was saying something that's both profound and shocking, right? She was talking to the city council member and she was saying, you all use drugs. Why are you judging me for using drugs? You say that I'm homeless because I use drugs. Well, you guys use drugs too, and you're allowed to do that. So, which I think is both a very kind of good point, and also it's something that's kind of like interesting and surprising for people. If you're just scrolling down and you see someone accusing their city council member of like using drugs and being a hypocrite, like I would want to watch that video. And I think this video like got like 300,000 views or something like that. So it really was like, and that hook really did get people in to watch the video. So we're not going to play the whole video, but I'm going to show you a little bit of the next part, which is the conflict, introducing the problem.
Section 8 voucher that I cannot use because I do not have 2 years of rental history because I've never had a place.
Okay, so she's saying that she qualifies for housing services, and she got a voucher, but she can't use it because you need rental history to get into an apartment, and she doesn't have rental history because she's in the camp. So that's a problem, right? Identifying a problem with service provision.
I got 3 generations worth of us out there. Me, my auntie, and my grandma.
Right? She's saying her family has been homeless for generations. That's another problem. So we're introducing all of these problems.
I'm 23 years old. Should not be struggling with houselessness. I could be your kid.
They were saying, I'm 23, I'm just a young person. How am I out here on the streets? I could be your kid. So there's another minute of that, people talking about the problems that they've experienced that have gotten to this place. Now I'm going to show you where the video changes to get into solutions. And you'll notice I don't introduce, like, here's the problem, here's the solution in the video. But when you see it all together, it creates that narrative and it feels natural to people. So here's where we start talking about the solutions.
And I want to just know what's going to happen to my daughter if this happens tomorrow. He's in a hospital bed. He's quadriplegic. Needs help 24/7. And these people became her family. She feels safe there.
I know the audio is a little low, but she was saying, so she lives with her daughter in the camp. Her daughter is quadriplegic. And she's saying that the camp supports her daughter. They provide care for her daughter. And so the solution here that we're asking for is just for them to let the camp exist. Like they were thinking that they're evicting them. So she's saying, if you let this camp exist, they're going to be able to care for my daughter. And that's a solution.
Contract out to random ass corporations all the time to do this shit, but we are the community and we care for each other.
This person's saying, you guys spend, to the city council, you guys spend so much money on homeless services, but we're providing these services to each other as a community for free. We're already doing this. We are the solution. Okay, so there's more of that solution stuff, but we're going to jump into the call to action now. The point of this video, why I made this video, I don't live at this camp. I'm making this video from a service provider account. The reason I made this video, we support this camp is one of the camps that we go to on outreach. They asked us to support them. They have their own Instagram, and they wanted they knew we had a lot of followers, and they wanted us to try to get people to follow their account too. And it worked. They got like, I think 1,000 followers from this video. So you'll notice I say in the last part, follow them on Instagram at Camp Resolution to stay engaged. So giving people a very specific thing they can do. Go follow them on Instagram. I'm going to show you the last clip.
These folks here deserve a chance. They have worked so hard to be a community. They deserve this chance.
So she's saying, these folks here deserve a chance. We've worked really hard to be a community. We deserve this chance. So the call to action to the city council is let us stay here. Let us try to be a community. And the call to action to the viewer is go follow them on Instagram. Okay. I'm going to have one more example and then we're going to take a break, I promise. Okay, if I could get there. Okay, and then this is an example of the same thing, except in Instagram and text format instead of in video format. And this is something that a post that I made recently. It's maybe the most shared post I'd ever gotten. I think it was like 14,000 shares or something like that. But so each one of the squares is its own slide on Instagram. It's its own picture. So learn the difference between danger and discomfort. That's not a lot of information, right? But it's something you want people, it's just kind of the stark thing. They're like, what do you mean by that? It just a hook to get people to swipe and to actually read the rest of the information. And that was the most shared tile out of all of them, out of all 4 of them. So it's just a hook. That's the hook, get people engaged. The conflict. The point of this post is that a lot of people in my city call the police when they see someone using drugs, or if they see a tent on the sidewalk, like see a person living in a tent. And the point of this was to encourage people not to do that. And so I'm telling them in this post, seeing a tent on the sidewalk, seeing a person use drugs does not put you in danger. You don't need to call the police. And that's the problem, is that people are calling the police. The resolution is that, maybe you see that and maybe you feel like you're in danger, but you need to kind of ground yourself a little bit and ask yourself, am I actually in danger right now? Or am I just uncomfortable? That's the resolution. The call to action. In this case, we're not really advocating for any specific policy. The point is to change people's perceptions. And so the call to action is, where should I direct my anger? Instead of directing it to people just trying to survive, living in a tent or doing drugs, I should direct my anger to the systems that are restricting those needs. So why isn't that person in housing? Why is that person living in a tent? Why is this person forced to use drugs on the street? That type of thing. So this is kind of how that looks like in an Instagram format. Next, we're gonna have a breakout activity after a break, but I want to just do like a 5-minute break to get y'all the opportunity to get some water, coffee, and then if you have questions in the comments, I'll be here during the break. So if you want to ask questions, you're welcome to. But 5 minutes, if you and we'll start up again at 9 a.m. my time, which is whatever the exact hour is on your time. Thank you everyone for staying through that. I know it was a ton of information. Happy to answer questions, but please take a break, hydrate up. And then we will get to the breakout activity soon. So finish up your breaks and I will answer the question from the chat. Great question. So talking about working with international organizations and you might have content that's critical of their beliefs. How do you create content that does that without upsetting your partners? How I approach this issue, I deal with it a lot while we're a service provider. The content I create is for a service provider that works in a network of a lot of different service providers, and we have very different beliefs than most of those because we're a harm reduction organization. Most of them are abstinence based, and so sometimes, like, yes, you want to post something and you know that it's not going to be received well by people that are your partners, people that might have power over you, your funders. I would say, like, if you're in that situation, like, stay true to your community, stay true to like your values, and you can avoid adding them. Like you don't have to necessarily be like, hey, this organization, you have really terrible practices in regards to drug use. And I think like I wouldn't recommend doing that on social media at all, actually. Like you can like engage with that stakeholder individually, because people like will not respond to that. Like if you like create kind of a social media attack against someone, like they're not gonna like be like, oh yes, you're totally right, like let me change that. So I mean, you can use social media to like mobilize people to like tell someone something, but I would really recommend like if you have a problem with an organization that you work with, you have an actual working relationship with, then you address that within that, and then you can use social media to talk about topics that they might find controversial. I would say do it, like, and if they like fight for what you're fighting for. And if they like come to you and you're like, hey, I didn't like your video about how we should legalize syringe exchange or whatever it is, like, that's an opportunity to have that conversation. But I wouldn't just like completely sanitize all of what you are fighting for because of another organization's opinions. And that's especially true in harm reduction, because harm reduction is going to be controversial. Like inherently there, harm reduction is asking people to look at the world in a way that they don't already look at it. It's a completely different mindset than what we're existing in right now. So you're gonna probably ruffle some feathers at some point. And I don't think there's a way of really avoiding that. I hope that answered your question. Okay, moving into our breakout activity. Hopefully folks are back now. We are going to plan our own campaign and do some social media. So we're going to work doing an infographic and a TikTok together. And I don't want you all to stress out about this. It's just a learning process. But your prompt is, you're all residents of Country Z, random made up country. The government is about to vote on a plan to combat rising overdose rates by making Narcan available for free at pharmacies and harm reduction programs. You support this policy. You want to use social media to help it pass. Just in case folks don't know what Narcan is, I know we've talked about it a little bit throughout the presentation. Narcan is a drug that reverses opioid overdoses. So if someone overdoses on heroin, fentanyl, prescription opioids, Narcan is a spray or injectable shot that you can use to help them breathe again and save their life. So now the government of the shared country you all live in is considering making this available for free, and you want to mobilize people to action to help this plan pass. So remember we talked about, right, you're not addressing the government itself, you're addressing your followers, and you're trying to give your followers something to do. So in your group, plan at least one Instagram infographic you could use in your campaign. It could be multiple slides, it could be one slide. You don't have to make the infographic, you don't have to go to Canva, we don't have time for that. But just plan what you'd want the infographic to say. So say slide 1 will say this, slide 2 will say that. Consider details like, how do you grab your followers' attention with the hook? So how do you make that first slide super engaging, or like really straight to the point, make them want to read your post? How do you explain the importance of this policy? Like telling a story, citing a research study, like how are you going to kind of get them to support the policy? And then what's your call to action? This is important for an advocacy post. What's your call to action? What are you actually asking them to do? I know that Country Z is a fake country, so whatever you decide goes. You don't have to get stressed out about like what is the form of governance. If you want to say we're going to have a petition to the parliament, that's fine. If you want to say like we're going to have a protest at the Supreme Court, that's fine too. Like it doesn't actually matter, like the details like that, make them up as you go. But just give your followers something to do in this made up world. Does anyone have any questions about how this will go? Perfect. Thank you so much, Curly, for screenshotting it and putting it in the chat. Okay, so now I think I have to stop sharing the screen to do the breakout rooms. I'm going to do that now. Let's see how many. There's 15 of us here, so I think I'm going to do 2 breakout rooms. And you're going to have 10 minutes to do this. So in 10 minutes, I'll bring you back here, and we're going to move into the next activity and then do a debrief. All right. So should assign you soon. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'm breaking it up now. I'm gonna share screen again so I can introduce the next exercise. Okay. Okay, task 2. Congratulations, policy passed. Now you want to use TikTok, so you were working mostly on Instagram before, but I heard y'all having ideas for videos too, so great job. Now you want to use a TikTok to educate citizens of Country Z about this new program. So before you were mobilizing people, right? You were trying to get them to support a policy. Now, there's a different function of social media, right? Which is to educate people about the programs that already exist or what the state of things is currently. So this is what we're doing right now. We're going to plan a TikTok that educates about the importance of Narcan and inspires them as individuals to go pick some up. So now Narcan's available at all the pharmacies and harm reduction programs, and you're going to inspire your audience, give them reasons why they should go pick some Narcan up. So plan a TikTok. It can either be you can just kind of create a message that you would want to say if you were talking to the camera, or you could plan a video like, oh, come with me to a pharmacy and see how to pick up Narcan or something like that. So it could be first person, third person, whatever you'd like. We're gonna do maybe like 8 minutes this time. But I'm going to send you back to breakout rooms. You might be in a different breakout room than you were before. And we will discuss this. Were you able to screenshot this, Carolina, and share it? Oh, yes, you did. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. I will send you all back. Oh, wait, it's already, okay, perfect. You might be in the same room, actually. All right, I'm about to open the breakout rooms, work on your TikToks. Oh, some really good idea from both groups. I'm not gonna even share the slideshow again. I can just kind of summarize what's next. So the only thing we have to do left, we're just gonna debrief the activity we just did and then go over any questions that y'all have. So start with a little debrief. If anyone wants to come off mute or put it in the chat, whichever. I'd love to hear some of y'all's voices, but I know that that's a little scary. And just talk about anything that come up for y'all, any challenges that you had, any ideas that you thought were really good ideas for either of the breakouts. I heard some great ideas, and I can share some ideas that I really liked, but I'd love to hear from y'all.
I'm sorry, Sarah. Are you asking us like what was the recap of the breaking rooms or
Yeah.
what specific?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. What is your recap? You don't have to go through every idea you had or anything, but just share any ideas that you really liked, any challenges that you came across.
I don't want to expose anyone in my team, but I think Baumika did a great job. She has some very good ideas regarding the task number 1 and task number 2. So maybe Baumika, if you want to share, or someone else from the group could do that. But your ideas were really interesting.
Okay, thank you so much. If I discuss about the first question, which was wherein, a policy had to be passed and we had to talk about it. So my idea personally was sort of to first explain the policy with to the people in a video format, as into what the advantages and disadvantages of the policies, what are the target beneficiaries of the policy, and how could the policy impact those people. And then we could have in few people, for example medical professionals or public health professionals, coming in and then talking about about Narcan and like how the policy could in a positive way impact the people. Or we could have um, there's one more person. There's one Janzo from in our Rebecca room, who said we could also have testimonials of people. So I think it is important, so that and then we could have a poll for the specifically for the adolescents and youth of the country. And then after getting to know about all these aspects of the policy and what people from the medical domain sort of feel about this policy, they can then make a choice as into whether they want this policy to be passed or not, and then we can share this data with the government or something like that can be done. The idea what I had for the second question was, uh, the policy has been passed but has not yet been implemented. Like it is still in the implementation process. So what we can do is we can take data from other countries wherein a similar policy has been already implemented, or wherein use of Narcan is more, and then we can talk about how positively that thing is impacted on the population of that particular countries. Yes, so in a certain way we're encouraging the people of our country to probably sort of more resonate with the policy and use more of Narcan, something like that. But I think other people who put forward other ideas were all, I think they were also great. Thank you.
Those are all really great ideas. I liked how, I mean, you had like a vision from the whole start. There's like so many content ideas in there. I mean, honestly, you could make probably 20 videos out of what you talked about, right? Having the data aspect of it, having the experts aspect of it, having the people with lived experience part. And going through, I like how you talked about really that, having that understanding of this hasn't been implemented yet. Here's what we need to do for this exact moment of where the policy is. And that's so important for social media, which changes so quickly. This isn't a report that you work on for 2 years. This is something that's happening right now, and you have to have relevant information for whatever's happening right now. So you really hit the nail on the head there, and that was great. Does anyone else want to share any takeaways?
I mean, I did most of the talking on my group, so before I do that, I would like to see if somebody else would like to say that or to say something about that. And if not, then I can share what we said. Okay, then I'm gonna say it. Well, first, in regards to the task number one, well, as you heard Sarah, I suggested the topic of 5 reasons why the Narcan policy is important for a community. In regards to the hook, I said like a quick video summarizing numbers of people affected by overdose or by not having access to Narcan. And then that's why it's important to, look forward to approve this policy or to support it. And then we can ask our followers to sign a petition or to check the link in our bio to, inform themselves a little bit more about that. In regards to that, then we talk about like the ideas for videos or ideas that could come up after that. So C2, for example, said it's important to do informative posters or videos letting people know about how can they access services like helplines, healthcare programs, etc. Because sometimes countries do have these things, but people don't even know that they exist. So it's important that we, share that information. Amran also said that, he suggested use questions to engage with people, like what would happen if Narcan becomes accessible for all? What are the main benefits? Where can you find Narcan near you, etc. Well, I also added the do's and don'ts of Narcan, like when is it a good idea to use it, how to use it, etc. And then ask our followers to check the guideline that we made about Narcan use, like the long like guideline on our bio or something like that. And then a campaign called like I Care for Someone Who Uses Drugs that promotes carrying Narcan with you, because there could be someone that you love or care about that might need it one day. To also raise awareness about drug use and, letting people know that it's a common thing and it's important to also support people who do it. And Maria suggested trendy songs in the background, plus important text on top. Informative videos such as like don't buy this, buy that, or like a get ready with me to go to the pharmacy and get some Narcan. And we also added these topic that I think it's important, that like underage people on Narcan, parental consent on Narcan. What can I do if I want to help a minor? What's the best thing to do, to avoid any problems as well?
That was all great. Awesome. Yeah, I heard a lot of great things out of y'all's group too. One thing you didn't bring up, but I'd like to bring back to the group too, that I heard in your group was talking about when there's a policy, using social media to translate that policy into language that people understand. A lot of policies aren't written in everyday language, or people, might not really even understand. Sometimes it's hard to even understand, like when you're voting yes, like what are you actually voting for, or voting no? Like the wording can be very complicated. And so I really liked how your group talked about using social media to take this policy, and y'all do the work of like reading the policy, really understanding it, and then translating it to something that more people will understand and engage with. Great job, both groups. Thank you everyone for participating. Really, everyone did a really good job. So we're done with the content of the workshop. So the last 10 minutes here is just questions. If you have any, if you don't, that's okay. We'll be offended, but I would love to answer any questions if you have any about, it doesn't have to be about the workshop itself, it could be about issues you've come across when making your own content. If you want to talk through anything in regarding to content creation or harm reduction, now's the space for that.
So sorry, Pomik, you put your hand up, you followed procedure. Go ahead.
I think you can go ahead and then I'll continue.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. Yeah, I'm just curious to know if you, Sarah, and if other people are kind of like, if you're coding the language that you're using with drugs, because our page just got like one of those, your content is breaking community guidelines on Instagram. And it's not really clear what rule it's breaking. I've always been against coding the language, but now clearly, it's just going to limit our reach a lot, so I was just wondering, if you've dealt with that before, if you guys do it, if I don't feel comfortable coding the language because it's something that like, I feel like we shouldn't be hiding these things, but at the same time, like it's just destroying our reach.
Yeah, that is harm reduction content creation in its essence, basically, is trying to figure out where that line is. I have done that. I have coded language, absolutely. And this is a similar reason. Like part of harm reduction is that we are having honest and frank conversations with people about drugs. We're not coding. We're not trying to like make something into something that's not. It's supposed to be honest and true to what it's about. Unfortunately, when you do that on social media, you get taken down. And I have had so many videos taken down. It seems like most people who do harm reduction content creation struggle with it. And eventually they'll either ban your account or shadow ban you so severely that nobody will see your content at all, like you were saying. So I think like what I, kind of talked about in the presentation a little bit there is that there's ways to kind of, you present things in a coded way or in a way where you don't actually use the term itself, but everyone knows what you're talking about. The video I made about, taking a syringe to put saline water into a peach, like people knew that wasn't, everyone in the comments immediately knew what that, like they knew it wasn't about peaches. They knew it wasn't about saline water, right? And you kind of like say it in a little way. You're like, okay, you're gonna take your and mix it in your cooker with your water. So just like take it in a way where people kind of understand, like, okay, there's something else going on here. Is that a perfect solution? Do I wish that we could just be like, hey, here's exactly how to do it. Here's what drugs you can use, and exactly, absolutely. But that's just not where social media is right now. And I really don't think you have a choice but to code the language or unless like if you want to stick true to it, like I support you and applaud you, but you're probably going to get your account banned. And after a while, your account will be banned and you won't be able to start up new accounts and it'll be a whole mess. So and if that's like the hill you want to die on, like that's okay, but I would rather see harm reduction content that's a little bit coded than not see any harm reduction content. Thanks for bringing that to the space. Bamika was next, I believe. I hope that's the right pronunciation.
Yes, it's actually Bhumika. I had few questions. Just to give you a background, I'm an 18-year-old and I'm a second-year law student in India. I'm actually working in an organization which is Viper India. We're working on sexual reproductive health and rights. So what the problem that I'm facing is we're actually targeting adolescents in the youth population. So we're also targeting younger adolescents, people between the age groups of 10 to 14 years. So sometimes when we're creating content specifically related to SRHR, sort of to create awareness among them, we're specifically targeting the topic, to sort of, there's an act in India, POCSO Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. So we're specifically delving into that aspect of it. So when we're creating content, it becomes difficult to make content, for different age groups. How do we deal with that aspect? Second is there any specific software wherein we can make content for animated content in regional languages for the youth or younger adolescents? Is there something that you know? And there's other thing that how can we engage on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter?
Okay. Yes. So there's a few questions there, starting with how to deal with different age groups. That's a great question. In California, where I live, you have the right to comprehensive sexual education from the age of 12. So it's not really like a problem that I've had to face, but on social media, your content can reach anyone all over the world, and you don't know what laws there are in that situation. You don't know what age groups are going to be doing it. If you're going to be targeting content to audiences, obviously you have to pay attention to the laws, but I think there's always a way to talk about the topic. Like, you don't have to go maybe into the depths of how to inject heroin the best way or whatever, like, but you can talk about, like, what does consent look like with drugs? How do you make a safety plan for you and your friends? How do you check in with each other? Like, there are topics surrounding drug use, sexual health, whatever it is, that are relevant for every age group. So you can always kind of tailor and think about, okay, this is the age group, here's what laws and education system I'm working with, how can I communicate something that's relevant to these age groups without being in violation of the law. And even if you don't say the word drug specifically, yes, we want to talk about drugs explicitly, as we talked about. That's not always going to be possible with the laws, the community guidelines. You can talk about things in a broader sense, right? Here's what safety looks like, harm reduction, reducing your risks look like. So there's different ways you can frame it. The second question you had was about regional languages. I'm sorry, unfortunately, I don't have experience with that. I don't know if there's a software. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't have an answer on that one. And then the third question was about LinkedIn and Twitter, right? I don't use LinkedIn. I used to use it. I don't really recommend it for harm reduction, honestly. I mean, maybe if other people have had experience with LinkedIn and want to chime in, but my experience with LinkedIn is that it's very, very like professionalized. It's very about presenting things in a way that like reflects corporate business interests. There may be another side of LinkedIn that I did not access. In the harm reduction world that I work in, we don't use LinkedIn. It's just like not really a great place for us to share like harm reduction type content. Twitter can be good. Yeah, Twitter is actually like the best social media platform in terms of like being able to, they will not take you down for posting sexual content or drug related content. So the community guidelines are the easiest to work with. I heard they're going to start charging people. I don't know if that's true, but the community guidelines can be good. It is harder to build a following, I think, because the algorithms aren't as like TikTok, the algorithm will put your content on anyone's platform who has your interests. X/Twitter isn't really there yet. So if you can, if you feel confident in your ability, like the things that do really well on Twitter are like really short, snappy, funny pieces of text, or like and if you feel confident in that, yes, absolutely use Twitter. You can also post your videos on Twitter and your pictures on Twitter. So definitely memes, good thing for Twitter. I have a Twitter account. I don't use it for work, but I think yeah, it's a different type of content, but I think it is actually pretty good for harm reduction content and drug policy content if you can keep it in that short format. Okay.
Okay.
I
Actually,
Yep.
I'm so sorry. I had another question. If we're specifically using Instagram, like one format is to probably create awareness about a topic or, sort of increase our followers and stuff. But then if we look at to the other aspect of it in terms of, if you want to associate with organizations that are working on similar stuff, but then we're working on a very, sort of smaller level and they're working on a very bigger level. In terms of collaborations, how can we make our social media in a way that, sort of we can collaborate with organizations?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think I've gotten a ton of collaborations through social media. I think honestly, like if you're posting regularly, and if you follow, make sure you follow other organizations. Just like search whatever it is, so your country, so United States harm reduction or whatever, and just like follow all of the organizations you can find, or like in your city, Sacramento outreach organizations. Like that's a great way to find other organizations, and then y'all will start building that familiarity with each other just by seeing each other's content, and then you can message them and say, hey, love your content, we're working on this project, would you like to be involved? I've done that a million times. Social media is a great way to make connections with people and other organizations, definitely. I know that we're
Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you for the questions. We're running out of time. If you have to go, totally understand. I do want to answer this next question, but I know this is kind of the end time for the meeting. So if you are leaving, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to put my email in the comments, so you can reach out to me if you have any questions in the future. But and then I'm going to stay on and answer Isaac's question and anyone else who has a question. Okay, Isaac, go ahead.
Hi, Sarah. So my question is, considering the fact that social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook can be likened to borrowed land, and then so what are your thoughts in directing our audiences to newsletters? A single policy can just ban social media in a particular country and all that, and your audiences are just lost forever. So what do you think of newsletters?
Newsletters, yeah. No, I think that's a great workaround if you're worried about banned accounts. Another thing you can do is have a backup account, and while your account still is standing, before it gets taken down, you create a backup account and then you post on your main account, hey everyone, we're about to get banned, probably go follow the backup account, and then you'll have that ready to kind of sub in. So that's one option. Mailing lists is another thing. I think mailing lists are really different than social media. It's not the same type of content or communication. Typically in mailing lists, you like images, videos, if people are reading their emails, like they're already probably like stressed out, don't want to be there. So I don't have great luck with engagement with mailing lists, but I think it is an option, especially if you're concerned about not being able to post on social media. And the benefits of a mailing list too is that anyone who's on the mailing list is someone who's signed up to be there, so they want to see your content and they know that they're already sympathetic. So I think that that's it could be a good option, but it might not be the best place for like video or like pictures and stuff like that. Maybe a few per email, but not people don't, I think at least in my area, people don't engage with email as much as they engage on social media. Thank you. It's a great question. Does anyone have any final questions before we wrap this up? Okay, everyone. Well, my email is in the chat. Please email me if you are working on social media and something comes up and you want if you want advice or if you want me to look over content that you've made. I'd really be happy to do that. Y'all are an amazing group. This was really wonderful for me. I hope that you all learned something. Does Youth Rise team have any last thoughts?
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah.
This was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you so much. It's been great to have you, and it's great this is also recorded so we can share it with more members who weren't able to join today. Yeah, the learnings are going to be really incredible. I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with from now.
Me too. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank